Hello and welcome to a very exciting episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Zach, and joining me as always is Aaron.
Hello!
And we are going over the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct and talking about all the stuff going on with that.
Yes, it's like a little mini E3. It's very exciting.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff shown. We do also have to talk about the price because I think that's sort of overshadowed the conversation a little bit, but we can sort of get into that. I don't know if we lead off with price related stuff.
Let's maybe talk about that first, just so we can stop talking about it.
Okay.
Because it is it's $450, and the big talking point is Mario Kart World is $80. But if you get the bundle, which is, I don't know why you wouldn't buy the bundle.
Yeah.
I don't know what person is not buying the bundle, but the bundle is $500. And you get Mario Kart World, so you're basically saving $30.
$30, yeah.
But yeah, $80 is pretty steep.
Yeah, there's a lot of sticker shock out there after watching this. It was weird, though, because when they were doing the Direct, at no point did they cover price for any of it. So it almost seemed like they were hiding it or they were afraid to say it out loud. And so then they eventually, when they did reveal it, everybody was not happy about it. I think 400 seemed like a good sweet spot for price for the console itself. $50 extra isn't like that crazy in 2025 for a new console. And like when you think about like, I bought a PS5 and a Series X at $500 and didn't get a game bundled in. So getting a game bundled for that price is fine.
Well, I have to correct you with that, Zach.
Why?
You got Astrobot.
That's true. I did get Astrobot. But the sticker shock was more with the price of Mario Kart. That was the thing that really
that's crazy.
Threw me off. Because that's like... we were getting used to $70 being the new price point for most games, and now it's they're trying to go even higher. Although was Donkey Kong, I think the new Donkey Kong that we'll get into, that was that priced at $70?
I believe
so. It was just Mario Kart that was $80 for some reason.
For some reason, it's $80. Yeah,
and so everybody's like, "Well, make this value, like make it make sense to me in my head, like where's the value, the extra $10 there, and why did this one cost $10 more?" And that, I think it's a valid question, and there was some like misinformation going around about how like the physical copies were going to be $90. That I think is proven to be false. It is. I don't know how that rumor started. I think it had to do with like the European pricing. Somebody converted that to like American dollars and came up with that number, and it started spreading. But Nintendo, like on their website, they have it listed, and it does not say anything about that. So I pretty much confirmed that it's not going to be an extra $10 for physical copies. But that rumor spread like wildfire on social media over the course of the week, and riled people up. So don't worry about that, I guess. That's not going to be a problem. But still, we're getting into this weird area where like games are just going to be all over the place, I think, pricing wise, because it's sort of going to set a precedent. If Nintendo can do it or will do it, then definitely PlayStation and Xbox and other publishers are going to do it as well. Like right now, Ubisoft is kicking themselves for not charging $80 for Assassin's Creed Shadows.
And you know, rumor has it, and this is unsubstantiated, but people are saying that Rockstar might try to charge $100 for GTA 6.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we're getting to that point where like it's just going to be all over the place. Like some games are going to just, like one's going to cost $80, the next going to cost $90, you know, GTA 6 is going to cost $100. And like, given how long it takes to make a game and how expensive it is to make a game, you can almost make a case that like, I can understand them wanting to charge $100 for GTA 6. That probably took them a long time and cost a lot of money to make. But at the same time, like people want like reasonable prices for games. It's like, the parent who's gonna, you know, they have two kids and they're gonna buy a Switch 2 for Christmas, and they're gonna get a couple of games and a couple of controllers, and all of a sudden they're looking at like $1,000 basically for a Christmas present for their kids, and it's just like, this is getting out of hand.
Which, speaking of controllers, I believe I heard that the original Pro controller for the Switch is compatible with the Switch 2.
Yes,
Did you hear that as well?
I have that in our show notes. I have a little thing about Switch 1 and 2 accessory compatibility that we can go over.
Yes.
But, so yeah, maybe don't buy the Switch 2 Pro controller and just keep using your Switch 1 Pro controller. But, yeah, it is, I think the sticker shock of how much a game is going to cost this next generation is sort of the big talking point. Such that throughout, I didn't get to see them live, but the 2 Nintendo Treehouse live streams they did throughout the week, I have heard the comments from basically start to finish of the entire thing was just people saying, drop the price. It wasn't talking about how cool the hardware looked or how cool the games looked. It was just drop the price. And I don't think that they will. I think they're pretty much set in it, but like, Nintendo not commenting on it at all is maybe not helping the situation. Like they've basically gone radio silent when it comes to prices. Even when there was that controversy about like, will the physical games cost $10 extra? They didn't like shut that down and they could have and probably should have, but for whatever reason they didn't. They're just trying to like, move forward with hey, isn't this fun, exciting times? And everybody's on the internet is basically freaking out, but
it is a steep price, but Zach, I'm willing to pay it.
I was going to say, like, now that I've said all of that stuff, I'm going to say that I probably will still pre-order the bundled version that comes with. There's no reason to, but if you get just the console and you're like kicking yourself for having not bought Mario Kart, I almost feel like on principle you can't buy it after that. Well, because I guess you're getting charged $30 extra for it.
The one reason to buy it with not the bundle is for the completionist who wants a physical copy, because the bundle is only the digital version of Mario Kart World. But that's not worth it to me to have just a little cartridge for an extra like $30.
Yeah, and I also saw that there's talk about how some of the physical games are going to use like some game key card type of a situation where it's just a download instead of an actual cartridge, which is like defeats the purpose of buying a physical copy of a game entirely. And like that was like one of the
box.
Yeah, and that was like one of the big selling points of the Switch over like, a PS5 or a Series X is that you can basically count on getting actual cartridges that have the game on them. And so it like, replayability long after they've shut down their servers or whatever, or shut off their online stores. Like you have a library of games for a reason, and that sort of defeats the purpose. But so yeah, I guess all of that out of the way, let's get into the fun aspects of this direct.
How do you want to tackle this? Do you just want to go chronologically, or do you want to talk about the features of the console first and then the games? Because the first thing they started with was Mario Kart World.
Well, let's start with hardware.
We know what the C button does.
Yeah, I thought this actually looked pretty cool. The like game chat stuff.
I agree.
I can definitely see PlayStation and Xbox copying this feature, but basically it's a little bit like doing a live stream where you have the people you're playing with remotely you can see their screen on your screen. And so it makes it easier to be like, okay, no, you should go here and do this or whatever. It seems like
it's
feature.
So unlike Xbox or PlayStation, where I know Xbox has like Discord integration. I think that maybe PlayStation does as well. Like
it does.
The chatting is in the background, basically. You bring up a menu, you join a party, and then it goes away and you're just looking at the game. With this, and I don't know if this is just to like illustrate what it is or if it can go away, it seems like whenever you're chatting, the chat shows up like Discord boxes at the bottom, and you just always have whoever's in the party like on the bottom third of your screen, basically, and it kind of shrinks your gameplay. And I don't know if you can turn that off or if that's by design, but it's interesting.
I think they said that you can like resize it so that so it's not like you're gonna have to always give up like the bottom third of your screen if you want to be chatting with other people. or maybe you can even like put them in the background so you're not seeing them at all times. But
that's what the C button does, is it brings up the game chat menu where you can choose to, I believe that's where you like join parties. I don't know what they're calling it. They're probably not parties, but you can also mute your mic, and you can also share your screen, which is like, I think I think you're right. It's a very cool idea that probably Xbox and PlayStation might steal at some point. But yeah, it's like, and you don't have to be playing the same game either. You can kind of just like parallel play, all log into a lobby or whatever, and then you can see everybody else's screen. The only caveat with this is the frame rate is going to be pretty choppy on those. Those
you could tell even from like watching the live stream, like, ooh, the frame rate is not looking hot.
I mean, good on them for not faking it, you know? Like, I could see a world where they're like, look, it looks just like you're playing a game as well. But, and then like we would get it in our hands and see it's like 15 frames a second or something. But they showed it. And they also, the other thing they revealed right after this is now you can have a camera. And they just said a USB-C camera. So it's unclear to me if you have to have a Nintendo branded USB-C camera or if anyone will work. I also saw, did you see that, like, I think it was Hori or some other accessories company had a Piranha Plant camera?
That would be cool, yeah.
And you can, like, kind of close the mouth of the Piranha Plant if you don't want the camera to see you, and then open it back up again.
That's smart.
But yeah, and then also, so you have that camera you can plug into the top because, FYI, the Nintendo Switch 2 has two USB-C ports, one on the top and one on the bottom, which both can charge and both can do accessories. So you plug that camera into the top one, and then you can see your face, and you can kind of green screen that onto your little screen share. So it's like you're doing a little Twitch chat for your friends. And also, it has face detection, so you can like move around. It keeps you like in the frame. Also, it can do like, I think up to 4 people, it was saying. So if you have 4 people on the couch and you're playing some sort of game that incorporates the camera, it will just lock onto those 4 faces and then like kind of transmit them into the game, which is cool.
Yeah, and then they also had like microphone integration where they had basically...
That's questionable to me.
It's supposed to, like, I guess get rid of background noise. So like if you're in the example they showed in the video was like you're sitting on the couch playing and talking to somebody, and somebody behind you is in the kitchen like running a blender, and supposedly they should still be able to hear you. That will need testing to confirm whether or not that works as well as advertised. But
with my setup, my dock is pretty far away from where I would be sitting with my controller if I was to play this in docked mode. And I really don't know if a microphone's going to catch me on the couch. But also, the new Pro controller has an audio jack. And I don't know if that's just for sound or if it's for mic as well.
I assume it will be. I have said this for a long time that the next edition of the Pro controller, like a Pro controller 2.0, needs to have that because both Xbox and PlayStation have a headphone jack on their controllers, so you can just plug in a standard set of earbuds if you wanted to, and you not only get the audio from the game, but you can also use that as like your chat. So hopefully that feature is there as well. But that would, we just talked about trying to use our old accessories instead of buying new ones. But that might get me to buy a second gen Pro controller. But
I think I probably will as well, just because, like I said, my Switch is very far away, and it will replace my Switch. I'll put that somewhere else. But the dock, where I put the dock, is pretty far from where the couch is, and my wife and I sometimes would play Stardew Valley together, and I would have her use the Pro controller and I would use the Joy-Cons, and the Joy-Cons would sometimes just like lose connection because they were I would have to like sit closer to the TV, and the Pro controller never had that problem, and so I might just get another Pro controller just so we can both have Pro controllers when we play like Mario Kart and whatever.
Right. So you want to get into sort of the power behind the hood. So it's supposed to be able to do up to 120 frames per second, 1080p LCD screen with support for HDR. So there's supposed to be a focus on smoother gameplay with this one, and people have already been like hyping up how good Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom look running at like a stable, like high frame rate as opposed to like a very choppy up and down, roughly 30 frames that you're getting on Switch 1.
Have we talked about this? When you have the option, do you usually go quality or performance?
We've talked about this in the past. I always go performance.
Yeah, I do too.
It baffles me that anyone would prefer like a resolution mode or that a game would ship with resolution as the standard, that you would actually have to go into the settings and swap it to performance. But I always check it and make sure that it's set to performance. But hopefully the Switch 2 is able to boost your games to have like a nice stable frame rate, because
it'll probably be game by game, I would bet. Yeah. But I mean, with a lot of indie games, it'll probably be 120 by default, because it's just going to be like 2D basically. Like, I'm curious to know, we can talk about this later, but Silksong was mentioned. I'm curious to know what kind of frame rate that's going to get.
Yeah, and they talked a little bit about games getting like Switch 2 edition upgrades or whatever, and some of those like the Zelda games, for instance, because I just mentioned them, they're going to be like free for if you're an online plus expansion pack subscriber, but there will be other ones that will be like a $10 upcharge, and you can just like upgrade your Switch 1 version to a Switch 2 version. And
this was interesting because it was like
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say that opens the question, because some of they are adding like new features to games as well that are coming to Switch 2. And so that, like, does that put DLC back on the table for games that we thought were not going to get any?
I mean, Kirby's getting this DLC. I would call it DLC.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's enough there, then yeah, it's basically a DLC. But I was thinking even of like Pikmin 4, which I don't think got any DLC. What if that game like suddenly gets a DLC on Switch 2?
I could see that. So one of them came on, it was presented by the three like heads of Switch 2. There was like the project manager, the design lead, and another guy. And at one point, one of them came on and they were like, check this out. Broadly speaking, there are three types of games you can play on Switch 2. There are Switch 2 games, there are Switch 1 games that have been ported over, and then there's what we've been talking about. There are Switch 2 edition games, which are Switch 1 games that have had these enhancements, which Zelda is a big one. They also talked about Zelda Notes, which we can talk about, but I wonder how many Switch 2 edition games we'll get, because eventually they're going to stop making Switch games, I would think. So this is kind of just like an interim thing. Like, I wonder if in 2 years there won't be such a thing as a Switch 2 edition of a game, because they just like won't exist.
Yeah, it'll just be a Switch 2 game.
Yeah. It's curious because also I think, let's talk about Silksong again. Silksong is definitely going to come out for Switch, I would think, but also it's coming out for Switch 2, but this is a situation where I don't think there's going to be a Switch 2 edition of this, because what would they add,
Well, yeah, I would imagine, if they're going to release it for Switch 2, they wouldn't need a Switch 2 edition. They just go, this is the game on Switch 2.
Yeah.
The Switch 2 edition thing seems exclusively for like first party games that came out on the first Switch, and they're getting some sort of upgraded version specifically for the hardware of Switch 2. Like they had a bunch for like Mario Party Jamboree. Like they're adding a whole bunch of mini games that's supposed to make use of like the mouse feature of the controller,
which is confirmed.
Yeah, and I don't know. They had a bunch of stuff that they showed. I don't remember what all it was, but it seems like they're adding more stuff to games that are getting the Switch 2 edition. So that's kind of cool.
Do you think you would jump back into Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild to check this out?
I thought about it. Even if it's just to like pop it back into the console and be like, hey, look at this run. Isn't that crazy? I don't know that I would necessarily play through the entire game, but if they have like new, basically DLC for Tears of the Kingdom on Switch 2, that might get me to play through the entire
I would 100% do that.
Yeah. But I don't know about Breath of the Wild. I've thought about it before where I'm like, if I were to revisit these games, I would probably just play Tears of the Kingdom again because I like the abilities better in that one. But I mean, Breath of the Wild is a great game, but that too. Did you get a look at the system UI?
I saw a little bit from just people. So more than the tree houses, what I watched was like IGN. They invited like IGN and Easy Allies and a bunch of other people in New York to go do these like hands-on sessions, these like press hands-on sessions. And in those, you can sometimes see the UI peeking through. It looks like more of the same.
I was going to say, I pulled up a picture that somebody tweeted, and it looks basically the same as the Switch 1 UI, more or less, where it's just like a horizontal scroll of things. And it doesn't, maybe they will have it and they just haven't shown it, but the question of themes is still on the table as to whether that's going to be a feature of Switch 2 or not. But so let's talk compatibility with Switch 1 accessories. So your Joy-Con controllers from the Switch 1 can be used wirelessly, but they obviously can't be attached to the Switch.
Right.
You can use your Pro controller. You can use, so they came out with all of those like Switch Online, like wireless versions of past consoles. So like the NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis controller. All of those can be paired wirelessly. You cannot use your Switch 1 dock.
Makes sense.
Your power output is different, so you can't use the AC adapter for the first gen Switch.
Makes sense. New dock has a fan, also FYI.
Oh, really?
Because it'll help it to push out 4K stuff, I assume, to big TVs.
Is not compatible with the HDMI cable from the first gen Switch.
Interesting. So is this 2.1, I would assume?
It must be. It just says it is not compatible as the HDMI cable standards differ. So
interesting.
The micro SD cards are not going to work with Switch 2.
Yes.
Switch 2 is designed exclusively for micro SD Express cards. They allow for faster data transfer compared to conventional micro SD cards. So you won't be able to use your SD cards from your first gen Switch. And then those little slide-on Joy-Con straps obviously are not going to work with the new Joy-Cons, the new editions. So there's just a quick rundown of accessory compatibility.
Should we talk about games?
Yeah, let's get into all the games that they showed.
They started it off with maybe the most exciting thing. I mean, the Donkey Kong thing is very exciting, but I don't know. I am, the more I see about this Mario Kart world, the more excited I am about it, because
same.
Years ago, we heard them say a new Mario Kart is in development and we're taking a radical new direction. We were speculating on the podcast about what that could be. Obviously, they had done Double Dash in the past, and that was interesting. And I don't know if we ever speculated this, but now it just seems obvious what they would have done, because they have created Mario Kart Forza, basically. Forza Horizon, where it is all of the courses are on the same map. Obviously, there's different biomes, but you go through a course and then you drive to the next one, and then you go through that course and then you drive to the next course, which is very interesting. And also, you can just drive anywhere, and there's a free roam mode where you can just like go and do things. And I saw in one of the tree houses, one of the people was like, hey, we're not really talking a lot about this free roam mode, but there's more to it. So you really got to tune in for that. They're doing a special direct just about Mario Kart World, I think on like the 16th or 17th of this month. So that's going to be very interesting. But tons of stuff revealed in this. Game Explain is a good YouTube channel for like picking interesting details out of trailers, specifically like Nintendo trailers. They put up a very cool video about like, I think it was like 50 interesting details in this little Mario Kart World thing. And there's even more now that there's been the Treehouse and they've been talking about it. But what are your overall impressions of this? This is their first step forward with the new console.
Yeah, it looks very cool. I remember, I think it was it Burnout Paradise? That was sort of an open world racing game. And around the map, you could just like find these little collectibles that you could go get. And then you could go to like where a race would start and you go interact with it to start a race or whatever. I feel like this will be something somewhat similar to that. I think during the Treehouse Live I don't know if they didn't explain it or talk about it, but I thought I saw on the map that there was like some things that you could like, it seemed like maybe they were collectibles to go find out in the sort of open world area. So maybe they will have that speculation.
I think so. I think there's going to be stuff to find in free roam.
Yeah. And the other thing that I thought was cool that I saw in the Treehouse Live stream they did was there's like sort of a battle royale style mode that
it's a knockout race.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was in the, Mario Kart 8 or what was the previous one?
I don't believe so.
8 Deluxe. But basically you will race through like multiple tracks, and as you go, you have to be, within the first 20 people to cross the finish line of the first part of the race, and everybody else drops off. And then you keep going, and it sort of whittles down the people until eventually there's a winner. But you're sort of going through multiple courses back to back to back.
From one side of the map to the other, they said.
Yeah, I thought that could be pretty fun. I'm very curious if they have like some degree of like unlocks and, stuff to chase. Because I feel like that makes it more interesting and more compelling for me to want to play again and again. Whereas if I'm not really unlocking anything, I eventually will lose interest in stuff because I feel like I somewhat need that carrot on a stick.
In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the thing you were unlocking was different parts for your car, basically. And maybe different characters, but I think it was mainly parts for your car, because a big part of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was you pick like your chassis, your wheels, your like parachute thing that shoots out of you when you're gliding. And that all affected like your handling and your speed. And with this, it seems like that's not the case, which I like. I didn't like having to micromanage that. I don't want a racing game where I have to customize like my mufflers to increase my handling or whatever. There's a ton of characters. Like the screens that I saw from people that were playing like in IGN's video. First you pick your guy, and then you just pick your car, and the car is just set up. So in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you would have these crazy combinations of like this chassis with these crazy wheels because like that plus that equals better handling and faster speed. And now you just have like bespoke vehicles that you don't change, which I think is a good change. And you can still see their stats, but you're not like swapping parts out from them, which I think is a good move, a streamlined move.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever loved that aspect of the last Mario Kart, but I also wonder if people will be mad that it's not there because it felt like you could tailor the vehicle you were using to your taste. Like if you preferred like a lighter vehicle that accelerated much faster because you tended to go off course and you needed to be able to recover. Now you have to be more choosy about the vehicle because you can't really customize. You can't be like, I like this vehicle the way it looks and handles, but I want it to accelerate faster or whatever. I don't know. Maybe something is lost there, but I can see your angle as well. So
I wonder, so I haven't seen this confirmed anywhere, but so the Grand Prix, you've got the 4 races, and in between the races, you're racing to the next race. And I couldn't figure out if there was a benefit to being the first person there, like if you're the first person to the next racetrack, because seemingly it seems like the next race happens concurrently for everyone. So like if you're the last person to get there, does that mean you are at a super disadvantage, or what's happening with that? I guess I don't understand. Is it a race? Is it a full race in between the 4 races? Do you know what I'm saying?
It's probably just like your positioning where you are when you start the race. So are you at the very head of the pack, or are you at the back and you have to try to battle your way to the front?
So like, could you, if you didn't care about that, could you just like, after the first race is done, could you just like go look for stuff for a while, and then once the next race start, like Lakitu will just come and grab you and put you in your place, do you think?
I guess I don't know. I don't know how it works. Like, is this like an online thing where like people will be waiting on you if you are not, if you're poking along, and so Lakitu's got to come grab you and pull you forward? Or are you just like, is this against bots and they don't really care when you show up for the next race? You can just kind of go around and do whatever you want, and then when you're good and ready,
your opponents,
they'll be there.
It's up to, I think, 24 racers during each race, which is, I think, a lot. I think, was it just 12 in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Yeah, this was one of the things we knew previously, though, that they were updating, because I think the original Switch Direct, or not Direct, reveal that they did back in, what was that, January? Yeah. People were freeze framing the Mario Kart stuff and counting out the number of riders, so yeah. It is an increase for sure, which it could make things more chaotic given the amount of like turtle shells are going to be bouncing around. But
I think it's going to be very cool. I'm very interested in the free roam mode. I think I will say it's not, I don't think, a Breath of the Wild level launch game, where Breath of the Wild is maybe one of the best games ever made. But I think this is a very, very solid launch game.
Well, so like personal excitement level, probably not up there with like Breath of the Wild, but we have to remember Mario Kart 8 sold like hotcakes year in, year out for them from basically the moment it became available. So from Nintendo's standpoint, they could not have a better launch title for it. This is the game that's going to keep selling for the entire duration of the console's life cycle. Over like, you know, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, they both did solidly, but I'm sure sales dropped off with those. Whereas Mario Kart, people are going to be buying it and playing it for, you know, however long the console exists.
How do you think they do DLC for this? Because obviously one of the reasons that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had such a long tail was they were constantly putting out new courses, and if you had the like Switch Plus online membership, you got them all for free, and they put out a ton of them. And with this, all of the courses are built into the world, so like at some point you're going to run out of land to put stuff on, I would think.
That's true.
Unless they're like, here's a new continent. Yeah,
they could do that. Or you fly to a new planet.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I don't know. They could try that in different ways. Maybe
because for sure there's going to be new courses eventually, but I don't know how they're going to incorporate that.
Yeah, that's something I haven't thought about before. It is like a weird thing. How do you add more courses onto an open world version of Mario Kart? But
here's something else we haven't seen. Where's Rainbow Road?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be there. If it's not there at launch, they'll probably have one eventually. Like I was just thinking, like, what if they did like a like Sky Island, sort of like Tears of the Kingdom style?
Oh, yeah.
Like they have courses like that, I feel like, already. Like there's always the one on the like flying ship that you always do. So I'm sure those will be there in some way, shape, or form. Maybe that's one way to add on new tracks. Just make them floating in the sky somewhere or out in space somewhere. But they could go underground, have some underground levels. But there's plenty of options. I'm sure they'll think of something, but yeah, it is, I think, infinitely more interesting than Mario Kart 8 ever was to me. And I played a good deal of it and liked that game, but I think I would play a lot more of this one. And I'm very curious to see how they build out the online aspects of the game. If it's designed in such a way that can keep me coming back to it, that's pretty exciting. Especially since they upped the price of this one to $80. I'm hoping that we don't run into like, this is Nintendo's first take on a battle pass. Like, I don't want to see that invade this space, but I could also see them potentially doing something like that, but hopefully not.
Well, should we talk about third-party games? Because they had a number of them.
I was going to say, do you want to do the rest of the first party or go third party?
Let's talk about some third parties, because the other first party stuff was at the end of the presentation, and it's worth spending some time on.
Okay.
But I did speculate. I thought that 2 games would be there. I thought that 3 games would be there. I thought that Silksong would be there, which insanely they just showed like less than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
A wild thing to just have it be in the sizzle reel of just like not even 10 seconds. But it did say 2025, but who knows what that means. I mean, Xbox famously said that it was coming out within a year, that so many years ago, and it did not. But Silksong I thought would be there. Hades 2 I thought would be there, and it was, which I'm very excited to pick that up on Switch. I thought that they would have UFO 50, and that was not present. But they did have Elden Ring and Cyberpunk 2077, which are 2 big gets.
Yeah, if you're primarily a Nintendo person and you have not played those games already, being able to like play them on the go is pretty awesome. I'm very curious to see how they run.
Yeah, especially Cyberpunk.
Yeah, especially Cyberpunk. But I mean, that could be potentially a way to get me back into that game, because I never did play the DLC for that, and
DLC was great.
I played it at launch. So, like, I feel like the game's pretty different now.
It's so different. The skill trees are totally different. There's so much stuff that's, like, quality of life. Driving is totally different.
I hated driving when it came out. So,
they revamped so much stuff. Last year, when I played it for the DLC, it was just, like, it's such a revelation. It's, like, such a solid game.
Yeah, so I'm not saying I will, but it's one that I might keep an eye on as something that I could play on Switch 2.
Oh, and I didn't put this in the show notes, but Final Fantasy VII Remake is in this as well.
Yeah, so the first part, not...
Just that and Integrade, which is like that weird little DLC with Yuffie. They said stay tuned for more Final Fantasy VII content, but they didn't explicitly say that Rebirth was coming, but I assume that it is.
I would assume, like, why put it on there if you're not going to put the second one on?
Yeah.
But, I mean... I guess it's so weird, because didn't they say this was supposed to have like the power level of like a PS4 Pro basically? But Final Fantasy VII Rebirth only came out on PS5.
That's true. They're going to have to downgrade it a little bit for sure.
Well, and it also, like, if you played that in performance mode, which I did, at least at launch, it did not look great.
Oh, really?
And that was on a PS5.
I think it looks pretty good. I'm playing it in performance right now, and it looks pretty good.
I think they have done some performance improvement updates to it, but like it just looked very soft at times. It just, not every time, like obviously they have a lot of cutscenes in there that like you would not notice it, but if you're just like out running around in the world and you're in performance mode, it could look pretty soft at times. But
yeah, so
I'm very curious to see what that game ends up looking like on Switch 2. But
were there any other, I mean,
we could go over like the GameCube Switch Online stuff, which I did predict. I did say that this would happen, and that with Switch 2 they would have GameCube stuff, so we can finally play Wind Waker on Switch on a modern console.
People have been wanting it forever, but they probably have been wanting it not on a virtual console.
True, yeah, they probably would love to be able to buy like an actual physical copy of Wind Waker on Switch 2, but and especially if they could upgrade it or update it in some way. But Also Luigi's Mansion, Mario Sunshine. So this is that one of the games of the 3D All Stars bundle that they had for like a limited time. So makes me wonder when Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 will come out on Switch 2. But I think it's cool that GameCube stuff is finally coming to Nintendo Online, and you can actually get like a wireless GameCube controller that will work on the Switch 2 to play those games with.
The final third party they showed was a real banger. They were just like, take a look at this. And initially it looked like so this is very similar to the first Switch reveal trailer, which I watched numerous times. This is another showcase where I could watch it multiple times by watching people's reactions. And I would always skip to, this is one of the parts I would skip to because this is such a huge, there's so many pops in this because people watch it and they're like, what is this? Is this Castlevania? What could this be? It shows like the hand going up to touch the other hand, and then it falls away and there's a circle on in like blood or whatever. Then all of a sudden you see From Software, and that gets a huge pop. People are like, what is this? It looks very steampunk. So people are like, is this Bloodborne? Is this some sort of Bloodborne? Because famously that's been like trapped on the PlayStation 4, and it's never gotten remastered or ported to any other console. It seems a little more steampunk than that. You have some guns. You're a vampire. There's a weird guy in a metal suit with a jetpack that always gets a big pop when I watch people watch this. It is called The Duskbloods. It seems to be a multiplayer in the same vein as Night Rain, but probably not as similar than that. I actually don't know if it's like hero-based or what. It does seem to have similar people. Like, I don't know if you're picking up like one of 5 people, similar to Night Rain. But, yeah, it's called The Duskbloods. It's From Software, and it's exclusively on the Switch 2, which is a huge play by Nintendo. Like, if you want to play the new From Software game, you have to play it on Switch 2, which is wild to say. But they somehow did it. They somehow got From Software to make them an exclusive game for their launch. I think it's coming out in 2025.
2026.
2026. But yeah, what did you think? You're more of a Souls person than me because you are an Elden Lord. But what did you think of this?
I mean, obviously, FromSoft stuff looks insane and is very cool, and it is an amazing get for Nintendo to have this exclusively on Switch 2. I don't know that I love that it's multiplayer, but I guess I don't know what that means. Like, is it just you can play it solo or cooperatively, or is it this was clearly designed for multiplayer? And I don't know, because technically Elden Ring is a multiplayer game.
True.
But I don't think anybody thinks of it as a multiplayer game. So I guess I don't know for sure what that means yet or what to make of that, but it's very cool. I also am curious, is it open world? Is it more linear, level-based, that type of thing? But this looks cool, and it looks like the kind of thing that would never have been made for Switch 1.
No, for sure. This would not have... Switch 1, I mean, it had a lot of games, and towards the end it had started to get more mature games, but Switch 2 seems like it's going fully like, this is for everyone. We know that our fans have grown up with us, and you're gonna, like, Cyberpunk 2077 is crazy to think about being on the Switch 2.
Yeah. The home of Mario also has...
I know.
Cyberpunk 2077 and
so
the Duskbloods.
I loved watching people watch this trailer because more people in the gaming space like Souls games than I do. So that's like a thing. People are like, oh my God, another Souls game. I can't wait. And so this was great to watch people react to, especially that final pop where you see that it's only available on Switch 2. It like blows people's minds when they see that. So I was into this just for that. I don't know if I'm going to play this game.
Oh yeah, I'll stay tuned for more information. I can be roughly hit or miss on Soulsborne stuff, but I loved Elden Ring, and I loved Black Myth Wukong last year. But my Souls-like stuff tends to be more like a Souls-like Metroidvania, like a Hollow Knight or Grime or something like that. So I doesn't always hit for me when it comes to Souls-likes, but I'll definitely keep an eye on this because I loved Elden Ring, and this looks like potentially more of that, but slightly different, a little bit more steampunk-ish.
Guns.
Yeah.
It also seemed like there were less giant enemies. It seemed like there were more enemies that were just dudes with like masks on and stuff.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they do better with like storytelling and stuff like that. We talked about how rough it was to try to follow some of what was going on in Elden Ring.
So 2 more trailers. Their second to last thing was a trailer for Kirby Air Riders. Now, did you ever play Kirby Air Rider?
I did not.
It's the game that Sakurai made before Smash, I believe. Sakurai loves Kirby, and he's back to direct this. It's a racing game. I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know a lot about Air Riders. I know that it has a cult following. Air Rider does. But you're a bunch of different little Kirbys, and you're riding on a bunch of different weird things, and you're racing around.
Is it a racing game?
Kind of weird to have. I think it is a racing game, yeah.
I always thought it was sort of like those 3D Sonic games that are just sort of like going downhill, but I don't know. I never played them, so I have no clue.
I think it is a racing game, but they have other game modes where you're like doing like battles or something. But I think primarily it is a racing game.
Gotcha.
I don't have a lot to say about this one, except interesting that Sakurai's back for this. They ended with a big one. They ended with the long-rumored 3D Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong Bonanza. Zach, tell me about Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Yeah, we were right about this one, too. You finally will have a 3D Donkey Kong game. I don't love that they changed his look to look like the movie version of Donkey Kong. His face looks very different than what I'm used to, but it looks fun. It is. What was the thing that you texted me that was like the perfect description of this? It's like
it wasn't the perfect description. So I texted you, it's like DK Red Faction. I had forgotten that game is already called Red Faction Guerrilla, which is the correct thing to say.
Yes, Red Faction Guerrilla specifically, because I think that was the only one that had like the fully destructible environment. So Donkey Kong Guerrilla?
I only played the first Red Faction back on like PlayStation 2, but I loved it. And the reason we're saying Red Faction so much is because Red Faction pioneered or had a game engine called GeoMod, which allowed you to basically carve out chunks of every level. There were like explosives and railguns and whatnot, and you could blow up rocks because a lot of that game took place in like mining tunnels, basically. Very fun to play around with on the PlayStation 2. This game also has that sort of level destruction where Donkey Kong's very strong. His main thing is that he's strong, I guess. And so he can just punch through anything, basically. The whole level can be destroyed by him. And if you go to the map, you can zoom out and see all the destruction you've done. And it remembers everywhere on the map that you've destroyed. So it's not something where like you make a crater and then you walk away and then the level kind of heals itself. You can, like, all of your damage is persistent. And if you want to reset it from the map, you can just go to the map and click reset terrain, and then it resets everything for you. But I could never have predicted this would be the hook for this game.
Me neither. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know what a 3D Donkey Kong looks like. I never played the Nintendo 64 one, but I couldn't have predicted that like destructible environments and like sort of terraforming in a way, the different environments, that would be one of the key elements of the gameplay. But you gotta find some unique angle to it to make it fun and interesting, and it definitely seems like they found something fun and unique to do with it.
I saw people speculating also because like there's an emphasis on like smashing and grabbing and also collecting gold. Some people were speculating that they wondered if this started out as a Wario game, because Wario famously is like smashing stuff up and always wants gold. And then at some point in the development, they just transitioned to being a Donkey Kong game. But regardless, it's very cool. Like you can pick up chunks of the level, use it, like swing them around as big implements. You can toss them into other things and make little steps for yourself. You can spin it around on the ground and jump on it like a little surfboard. I saw also in the treehouse, when he was loading into a level, it gave like the levels like hardness. So like some levels, I think the terrain is like not as hard, and so it's easy to punch through. And some levels probably it's like more difficult to punch through everything. Also, you can climb everything, which is kind of a Breath of the Wild thing. Except some places are like kind of slippery, which is also really cool. It seems great. The more I watch these trailers, and I watched a little bit of the treehouse, it's just like, it's such a cool idea. Like the ability to like these systems driven games where like it's on you to figure out how to solve the problem because you have these tools at your disposal. And in this instance, the tool is you can make the level look like whatever you want basically by crashing through it. I just think it's such a cool idea.
Yeah, and the fact that they can like hide stuff behind destructible walls and make it so that you can like ground pound your way through like multiple lower levels of whatever level you're in. It definitely is going to make like exploration, like you're going to want to spend time in these levels.
And speedrunning is going to be insane.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be wild to see someone speedrun this game.
So yeah, I think this looks very cool. And I'm glad that it is not like another $80 game.
Yeah.
But did you get a chance to see the Metroid Prime one?
Not really. I will play Metroid Prime, but I think more interested in 2D Metroid than I am in Metroid Prime.
See, I think the same way, to be honest. Yeah. Like people love Metroid Prime, the first 3. And I do think it's cool. Like I liked what I played of Metroid Prime Remastered, but I love a Metroidvania that's like 2D for some reason. I don't know if maybe that's just like weird, but
oh, well, I have something else to talk about that I forgot to talk about after this.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you done with Metroid Prime?
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, converting the like Metroid sort of style of game, like the Metroidvania, into a 3D setting and making it like a first-person shooter is like very cool. And this does actually look really cool. If you watch it play, like I watched some of the Nintendo Treehouse stuff and it did look pretty cool. But I am like, I don't know why. It is not like hyping me up watching it for some reason.
Yeah.
But that's all I had to say about it. Go ahead.
And also real quick, so Donkey Kong is not a launch title. It's coming out in July. I think July 17th. So something we haven't talked about is during this stream, at least when I was watching it live, I don't know if you watched this live or not, the audio was desynced in the North American stream on YouTube. And I was like, that's weird. And then during the middle part of this, when they were showing, I think, that Astroneers game or something, the screen just froze. And I had to like reload a bunch of times and skip around, and eventually it started working again. But that caused me to miss a trailer. Eventually I went back and watched it again without any like freezing. They revealed a and Enter the Gungeon 2, which is now somewhat 3D. Enter the Gungeon is a favorite game of mine. I think I've purchased it 3 times. I have it on Steam, Switch, and I think I bought it on PS4 too. Love Enter the Gungeon. I don't know how it's going to transition to being 3D. It's I think a lot of the charm was the pixel art. I loved looking at the game and like all the little sprites. And so I don't know how this is going to be. I don't know like how far along it is or when it's coming out. They showed like a very brief thing that I don't even think was real gameplay. But it is like top down now, kind of like what's a good example? Like kind of like Tunic almost. Where I mean not isometric, but like it's like 3D, but you're still on like an axis.
Is it like? And
I don't know how I feel about it. Kind of like Hades, but like the not as good an art style as Hades, unfortunately. I kind of don't like the art style that they are trying to do, but I like Enter the Gungeon. I'm interested to see what they do with that, but that was a thing I didn't even realize was in the Direct until that screen. Did it freeze for you? Were you watching it live?
Yeah, I thought it was just my computer being weird because I was at work at the time, and so I probably shouldn't have been watching it, so don't tell anyone. But I did have like a little window open with the stream running so that I could like be watching it. And I thought it was just like my computer being weird. And so I didn't mess with it. I was just like, well, yeah, whatever. I'm mostly listening to it at this point anyway. And so I just kind of listened. And then I noticed that there was something off about like the picture and the audio were not matching up. And then eventually I think it resolved itself maybe. But
yeah, it comes out on June 5th. The console does.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that. Yeah. So it's a launch title or no? The console comes out on June 5th. Yeah. What did you think of Hyrule Warriors?
It's fine. I'm not really a Destiny. What is it? Destiny Warriors?
Dynasty Warrior. Yeah.
I never played that Hyrule Warriors 1. Type of
I
game,
never did either, but I heard good things about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a great game if you like that type of game.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought sometimes these games work for me and they can be fun. I really liked the Persona one that they did. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with that game. I didn't like the Fire Emblem one that they did as much. But so I'm not sure about Hyrule Warriors, but I did think it was cool that they're like adding stuff to Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to play that for sure. I love that game.
I was going to say that game is great. So I would not mind revisiting that game once Switch 2 comes out with some new content. But what was this like welcome tour thing? Explain this to me.
So welcome tour Wii U famously had a great pack-in game that was like, I think it was like Wii U Park or something, or Kingdom, where it showed you all the things you could do with a Wii U and had a bunch of cool mini games. PlayStation 5 had obviously Astro Bot. We talked about that. Switch has this welcome tour, which is not packaged in. You have to buy it.
That is,
but it
bizarre to me.
An exploration of the hardware itself, but kind of in a weird way. Like some of it is games, like some of it you can play little tech demos, but some of it is just like, hey, where are the magnets in my Joy-Con? And it just with a text window says like the magnets are here and this is what's happening.
Why would they charge for this?
I don't know. I also don't know if they charged maybe like $2 for this. I could see fine, that's fine. But they're probably going to charge like $10 or $20 for it. And I don't know that it's worth it. I don't know that anyone's going to buy it.
Yeah, this is it is so wild to me. Like Astrobot was just like the perfect introduction to a new console. It was a free game that came with the PlayStation. It was really like a tech demo for what the new controller could do, but it was also like an actual game. This, like, who cares about walking around the different kiosks and reading a text window about what each button or like screw on your controller does? Like
weird.
And the fact that they would charge for it on top of that.
Maybe it will have interesting things inside of it. I assume some person is going to buy it and like put some stuff on YouTube about like what you actually do in it, but it's not something I'm going to be purchasing, I don't think.
No, 100% I will pass on this. And the only other one that I can think of off the top of my head that we haven't talked about already was that Drag X Drive game, which looks kind of like Rocket League, but it's like wheelchair basketball. And
I thought there would be a thing. I knew there would be a thing where they would incorporate both of the Joy-Cons being a mouse, but I could not think of what type of game that would be. And they figured something out, I guess. It's you use the Joy-Cons to roll your wheelchair around, which is cool, I guess, but I don't know that I'm going to be... I don't like any sports games, so like this isn't going to make me play this.
Yeah, plus it just seems really cumbersome to have to like slide your mouse like back and forth to actually move around. I don't know if there's like...
Well, let's talk about this, because something I predicted that did not happen is I thought there would be a Nintendo branded mouse, which so far, no. But the Joy-Cons do seem very awkward to hold in that mouse position.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's got to be coming. But also, like, I thought maybe they would have some sort of like, you know, those things you get where you're sitting on a couch and you have like, it's like a big cushion that goes on your lap basically and becomes a desk.
Yeah.
I thought they would have something like that. But they didn't have that either. And so I would assume, I like all the demos I've been seeing, people are playing this just at a desk. And I really wonder how this operates on like a couch. Like how good is this mouse on fabric? If I was to just sit on my couch and sit like I was in a wheelchair basically and have my hands at my side on the couch cushions, would it be able to pick that up well enough? Because sometimes with an optical like laser mouse, fabric does not really pull your little mouse pointer along in a good way.
Yeah, what I think I'm more interested in with like the mouse feature is like, can you get like mouse integration for like Loop Hero so that you can move it around like a mouse and actually play it like it's a sort of the PC version of Loop Hero? That's what I'm more interested in, rather than like a game wholly designed around the sort of mouse functionality, because you couldn't even use like a standard mouse with this particular game that they showed, because you're also lifting up the mouse to do a throwing motion. And so
you gotta have the gyro in there.
Yeah, so you need like the full like standard Joy-Con 2 to be able to do it. So you wouldn't be able to use like a normal mouse for this game anyway. But I am sure also, third-party like controller makers will make just like a standard issue mouse, and that some like third-party games will just start integrating like the mouse feature for their game. So,
speaking of third-party, Civ 7 also coming to the Switch.
That's like a perfect example of a game that probably could use a mouse. You know, just give me a mouse for that.
It is crazy that it's basically becoming a computer. Like now you have a webcam and a mouse. I wonder if they'll give you the ability to have a keyboard as well, and then you can just like set it up as a computer.
I don't. It just seems like such a bizarre take for Nintendo. Like you think of Nintendo as above even like the PlayStation and the Xbox. This is a console that like families are going to have in their living room, and it's going to be connected to their like main big TV in the living room. And you don't, but like clearly it almost seems like it's designed for somebody to have in like an office or a bedroom on a desk connected to a monitor that's like sitting next to their computer, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like maybe it's just like a very different setup than what I think is traditional for somebody who would use a Nintendo console. But they're going all in on it because they've got that camera and they've got the new like mouse feature. So I don't know if I see PlayStation and Xbox stealing that feature. Like I can see them stealing the game chat one, but not this mouse feature. Like I don't think we'll get like a split PS5 controller that you're rubbing around on your desktop or on your desk like a mouse.
Yeah, I really want to see the mouse performance on a pillow before I make any judgment calls. But my thought is that it's probably not going to be great on a pillow, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe it will be like those things that you were describing. I don't know what you would call them, but they're basically a pillow on one side, but they're like a little tray top on the other side.
Yeah.
I've seen those before. I've never owned one, but you might, if you want to have this set up in your living room and sit back on your couch, you might need something like that. So
it remains to be seen. Overall, I would rate this as a great Nintendo Direct and a great reveal.
It was a great reveal. I loved everything I saw except for the price of Mario Kart World. I think that was the big sort of thing that has overshadowed the conversation since then. But I am still probably going to pre-order. Maybe I'm one of those dumb Nintendo fans that I'm just like, I know I'm going to play my Switch when it comes down to it. Like I put so much time into my first gen Switch.
There's no way Mario Kart isn't great at this point. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine.
That, and like, to be honest, Nintendo, even above like PlayStation and Xbox, I trust to come out with a first party game that's good. I don't know that I say that confidently about any of the games that are coming directly from Xbox or PlayStation right now.
Yeah.
They've had so many flops and so many games that were not what we wanted them to be, that if they are the ones upping the price to like $80, $90, whatever it is, I go, you don't necessarily have earned that right to do that. Whereas Nintendo, I feel like there's a little bit more of a trust factor there. Now, hopefully, I still hope that this is just like Mario Kart is like a different beast, and that you'll still have like your Donkey Kong, what was it, Bonanza, or like your Kirby Air Rides that are still coming in at like a $60, $70 price point. And they're not going to push the envelope to like 80 for every first party Nintendo game from here on out. But it's just like weird mixed things that they've done where like some of it is like consumer friendly and some of it is just wildly not consumer friendly. Like, like that tour of the internals of your Switch game not being free. Like, why? That seems dumb to me. But if you are already paying for Switch Online, you get upgrades for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for free. So, like, I don't know. They do some things well and some things not well. So, and also they're sort of botching the messaging where they're just like not really getting out in front of things. Like that whole like physical copies of games are going to be $10 more expensive on Switch 2. Well, they could have and should have put something like a statement out that's like, no, that's not the case. But yeah, they didn't do that for some reason. And now we didn't talk about it, but they delayed the pre-order date. So it was going to be on April 9th. They've pushed it back. I don't think they've said when, citing tariffs.
TBD.
Yeah, TBD. So now there's speculation, well, will they up the price again? Even though people are asking them to drop the price, will it actually go up instead of down? You know, who knows? I don't know. But they did not push back the release date. So it seems like they're, based on the fact that they didn't even have the like price of the console and the game that was going to launch with it in the actual direct when they were revealing it. It seems like a lot of this stuff is like the decisions are coming down to the wire, and it's like last second decisions that are happening right now. And so I feel like they don't really know yet. And they're just like reacting to stuff in real time. And they probably have some like war room at Nintendo where they're just like, what do we do? What do we say? Like, what's our plan? What's the price going to be? When are we going to put pre-orders up? But to that effect, I almost forgot. They do have an option on their website if you have Nintendo Online. So you can log in and you can register for them to like send you an invite to pre-order. So
there are a bunch of stipulations with this.
Go ahead and hit me with those.
You need to, I think you need to have had Nintendo Online for like a year, I believe.
Yeah.
You also
you have to have played for like 50 hours or something like that.
You have to have opted into sharing data, which actually I don't know if I've done. I have to check that.
It let me register, so I must have met all of the different requirements that they had. But
I think there was some other stuff, but it's all to circumvent scalpers. They wanted a way to ensure that real people were actually registering for this.
That's good, especially given what we saw with the PlayStation and Xbox, like scalpers.
But even with that thing on their Nintendo site, they were like, the first invites to pre-order are going to go out like May 9th, which was like fully almost a month after pre-orders were supposed to go live.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, because I mean, you could pre-order probably at Best Buy starting next week, but they said that the first pre-order like invitations from that like registering your interest weren't going to go up until like the second week of May, which was also kind of crazy.
Man, that's confusing then. I must have missed that. I don't remember them saying that, but yeah, that's very confusing. Like, if you had an option to pre-order from Best Buy starting next week, why would you wait until May something for Nintendo to send you an invite?
I mean, maybe it was a thing where they thought pre-orders were going to run out, and so everybody would be like, where can I pre-order this?
I guess that's true. If you were still struggling by like May whatever, and then Nintendo's like, hey, I've got your back. You can pre-order now, but
I guess we'll see. And then also, I think you have to pounce on that email invitation within, I think, 48 or 72 hours, or it will go bad.
Yeah, so it was 72 hours.
If you get one of these, you got to do it in the first 3 days, or it's just gone.
So yeah, I guess keep an eye on your email.
Yeah.
I think if they are selling out, it's going to be hard to tell whether that's because the interest level is there despite all the backlash to costs, or if scalpers are just like really quick. And I could see both being true, but
I would like to wrap this up by asking you to predict something, Zach.
Okay.
When will you be able to walk into a Target and see a Switch 2 on the shelf? Will it be in the year 2025?
I think so. Yeah.
Really?
I think so, just because hopefully like we're beyond where, because to a degree, some of the reason why it was hard to get a PS5 and an Xbox was like chip shortages and stuff like that, and also like the pandemic and stuff like that. And so there were different reasons why it was hard to get those consoles. So with those not being as much a factor, it'll probably be a little while after like the thing technically launches before you'll like reliably be able to go to a store and be like, I want that, give me that off the shelf and let's go. It might be like the holidays, maybe.
Really? All the way until like, you think December?
I don't know if it'll take that long, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm thinking about the holidays, they're definitely going to want to have enough stock ready and available for the holiday season. So I can see for sure by that time it will have been resolved, but potentially earlier than that. Of course, if price is like a big sticking point, maybe people will avoid it for a while. So maybe you'll see some stock on the shelves because of that, if it's even available. But
do you think, here's another prediction I'd like for you to make. Do you think that at Summer Games Fest, they will reveal another big game for the Switch 2? Because when the Switch came out, they talked a lot about Breath of the Wild, and I feel like we didn't hear about Mario Odyssey for a little bit of time before they're like, FYI, this is coming out in October. And maybe their big second game is just Donkey Kong, but I could see them.
Well, I feel like they'll want something for the fall.
Yeah, they're going to want something for the fall. And so maybe we haven't even heard of whatever that's going to be. Maybe that's where the Mario is going to be. Yeah. It's going to be in October again.
My fingers are crossed that there'll be, over Summer Games Fest, there'll be like Mario Odyssey 2 or
that would be
Mario World, the open world one, is going to be coming out this fall. And that would be amazing.
It's going to be a rough Game of the Year conversation, I think, this year.
Yeah.
Because Silk Song is also going to come out, supposedly, and GTA 6 is going to come out. Donkey Kong Bonanza, Mario Kart World, who knows what else, but it's already a packed... I mean, we're not even halfway through the year, and it's already going to be packed.
Yeah, I questions about like what games are going to actually show up on that list. Like what's out already that could make the list?
That's a good question. What is out already? Is anything out already?
I mean, games have come and gone, but I don't know. Like
Monster Hunter Wilds?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a little bit more niche, but the people that love that game. But
yeah,
maybe Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
I've heard people talk about how crazy that game is, and they love it. But that I think is also too niche.
Yeah, pretty niche. I think there's not a lot else that has come out that's like super exciting. That's like gonna be in that conversation. Whereas I think this time last year, we already had like, you could make a pretty good like top 10 list of games that came out in the year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like last year might have been stronger, but also last year didn't have GTA 6.
Or a new console.
Or a new Nintendo console. And
I think Bonanza is going to be a front runner if it is as cool as it looks. I mean, because did Odyssey win when it came out that year? I don't remember. Or no, it was probably Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it was Breath of the Wild, and then like Odyssey was sort of runner up. But
crazy those came out in the same year.
I know. That's why I'm a little bit hopeful that whatever the next Mario game is going to be this fall, and that would be crazy if it was, because then you would have GTA 6 versus like open world Mario game or Mario Odyssey 2. And if Mario Kart World does live up to like the sort of cool, exciting new features, I feel like that could be in the conversation. Whereas like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, sure, as cool as fun as that game was like nowhere near the conversation. Not just because it was like a re-release, but like, this is something a little bit different when it comes to Mario Kart. And so I think that could put it in the conversation. And yeah, Duskbloods is not 2025, so that won't be in the conversation.
Silk Song will be in the conversation, I think.
Silk Song will be there. I saw that it was in that sizzle reel for like all of 5 seconds, and it said 2025 on it, and I was like, oh, come on. Still no actual date, but at least
I know
they're sort of confirming it's this year.
Here's my prediction, and I have said this for the past 2 or 3 years, but I feel like we have to get a big trailer at Summer Games Fest this year, because like at this point, Keighley knows. Every time there's a Summer Games Fest or a Game Awards, people are like, "Where is Silk Song?" He knows in the zeitgeist that people want this game. It's hotly anticipated, and now it seems to be coming out soon. So I feel like he's got to want it. He needs it, and hopefully he can get it.
Yeah, and so Hades 2, it's going like 1.0 full release mode. That's what it's doing.
I'm unclear on that. They just said it was coming to consoles, but I don't know if it's actually 1.0 or not.
Interesting. Because as much as everybody loved Hades 1, Hades 2, if it blows up as big as Hades 1 did, that could also be in that conversation for...
Yeah, I think so too. That's definitely a contender.
So yeah, I mean, we're in that sort of weird fog of war era where we don't quite know what the fall looks like for releases outside of we suspect GTA 6 and possibly another like first party Nintendo game, but
yeah,
that will be cleared up a little bit by June. So on that note, do you want to talk about what we've been playing and watching?
I'll touch on this briefly just because we're already have gone over, but I did finally leave the Coral region, or Corel region, however you say it, and move into Gungaga. And I have skipped a lot of the, I think, side stories and have gone straight to probably the main thing that happens in Gungaga. I guess I don't know how long it lasts, but I just did that thing where Tifa goes into the weapon and has this weird memory interaction. I really don't know what they're doing with Cloud's memories and whatnot. A lot of it was subtextual, I think, in Final Fantasy VII, the original, and didn't like come out until later in the game. But here they're really like laying the groundwork for all this stuff. Like I feel like every interaction they have when they get to an inn, someone is like, something is wrong, and like what you believe happened did not happen. So I want to know what they do differently. But I'm still loving it. My goal is to complete it. Like I said before, whatever May 18th or whenever Doom the Dark Ages comes out, because I want to start playing that.
Speaking of Game of the Year contenders,
I know there's another one. But yeah, I'll have more to say probably next week. Hopefully, I'll have more time to get through the full Gungaga region. But yeah, still loving it.
Yeah, that section, like the open world stuff was like a drag, but like the story stuff that was happening was like very interesting, and you're like, okay, where is this going? What's going to happen next? So
yeah,
and I think that disparity only gets worse as it goes, where you're like, yeah, I don't care about open world stuff. The story is happening. We got to find out what's going to happen next.
Yeah,
but yeah, for me, I've mostly just played more Marvel Rivals and read some more of that 0-10 book that I talked about last week. But yeah, it's been all focusing on Switch 2 stuff. So
yeah.
On that note, do you have any parting wisdom?
This will be my final tapir wisdom for a while. But kind of the thing that got me into them recently was a new baby was born, I believe, at the San Francisco Zoo. My wisdom is to go follow the San Francisco Zoo's Instagram, because this new baby, who's named Ume, U-M-E, I think it's how you pronounce it, Ume, is very adorable, and they every day are posting multiple little Instagram reels of this baby interacting with the world. And so if you're interested or curious about tapirs, check out the San Francisco Zoo Instagram page and search for Ume.
Should have called him Drowsy.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, go ahead and follow this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and YouTube Music. I think we're also on Audible as well. If you listen to your podcast there, go check that out. And we will catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.